In life, we often face moments when it feels like everything is against us. The wilderness, the trials, the unknown. It's in these very moments that our faith is put to the test. But what if those very challenges are the key to something greater? What if they are the very place where God shapes us into who we are meant to become? Today, we journey through the life of a man who was tested more than most. Paul, once a persecutor of Christians, later one of the greatest missionaries the world has ever known. His life is a testament to what happens when faith meets the wilderness. Get ready for a story that will inspire, challenge, and transform. This is the story of faith in the wilderness, the life of Paul. In the quiet spaces between life's victories and defeats, there exists a place where faith is tested like never before. It is in these wildernesses, physical, emotional, and spiritual, that our true character is forged. For Paul, the apostle, his wilderness experience was not just one moment of trial. It was a continual journey of surrender, transformation, and unwavering faith. Paul's journey begins not as the man we know him to be, but as a fervent persecutor of the church. His life as Saul of Tarsus was defined by zeal. A man of the law, he was deeply entrenched in Jewish tradition, convinced that the followers of Jesus were nothing more than blasphemers. He actively sought to destroy the nascent Christian church. But all that would change one fateful day on a road to Damascus. As Saul traveled, a bright light from heaven suddenly flashed around him, and he fell to the ground. A voice pierced the air. "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" Acts 9 verse 4. The voice was unmistakable. Jesus, the very one Saul had sought to destroy, was now confronting him. This was no ordinary encounter. It was a moment that would transform Saul's life forever. For 3 days, Saul was blind, neither eating nor drinking. In the wilderness of his mind and spirit, Saul had nowhere to run, nothing to distract him from the weight of his decisions. All the pride, ambition, and anger that had driven him crumbled in that moment. He could no longer deny the truth that had been revealed to him. In those 3 days, Saul waited. He prayed. And through the prayers of a disciple named Ananias, his sight was restored. Saul, now Paul, arose from that wilderness moment, no longer a persecutor but a proclaimer of the very faith he had once tried to destroy. The scales fell from his eyes, but more importantly, they fell from his heart. Paul's journey in the wilderness didn't end with his conversion. No, it had only just begun. The Apostle Paul, newly baptized in the Spirit, would embark on a mission that would lead him through countless trials and tribulations. Yet, through each difficulty, Paul's faith would deepen, his character would be shaped, and the message of Christ would spread. In Galatians 1 verses 15 to 17, Paul reflects on his time in the wilderness after his conversion. "But when he who had set me apart before I was born, and who called me by his grace, was pleased to reveal his Son to me, in order that I might preach him among the Gentiles, I did not immediately consult with anyone, nor did I go up to Jerusalem to those who were apostles before me, but I went away into Arabia, and returned again to Damascus." Paul didn't rush to begin his ministry immediately. Instead, he spent time in the wilderness, in the deserts of Arabia, reflecting, praying, and growing in his newfound faith. In the wilderness, Paul sought the heart of God, not the approval of man. He understood that his journey would not be one of comfort, but one of deepening reliance on God's will, even when it meant facing loneliness, uncertainty, and difficulty. As Paul traveled and began preaching, he quickly encountered opposition. The very people who had once been his allies now saw him as a traitor. In Acts 9 verses 23 to 25 we read, "When many days had passed, the Jews plotted to kill him, but their plot became known to Saul. They were watching the gates day and night in order to kill him, but his disciples took him by night and let him down through an opening in the wall, lowering him in a basket." Acts 9 verses 23 to 25. Paul's life was in constant danger. He faced persecution from both Jews and Gentiles, from his former friends and new enemies. Yet he did not allow fear to take root. Paul pressed forward, knowing that the wilderness was not just a place of trial, but a place of divine training. Each difficulty strengthened his resolve to preach the gospel. But it wasn't just physical dangers that Paul faced. The Apostle Paul also endured deep emotional and spiritual wildernesses. In 2 Corinthians 1 verses 8-9, he shares his inner struggles. For we do not want you to be unaware, brothers, of the affliction we experienced in Asia. For we were so utterly burdened beyond our strength that we despaired of life itself. Indeed, we felt that we had received the sentence of death. But that was to make us rely not on ourselves but on God who raises the dead. 2 Corinthians 1 verses 8-9. In those moments when Paul felt the weight of despair, God met him with divine strength. His wilderness moments were not meant to break him but to build him up. Paul's faith was not simply about surviving hardship but learning to rely on God completely, recognizing that God's power is made perfect in weakness. In Philippians 3 verses 10-11, Paul writes, "That I may know him and the power of his resurrection, and may share his sufferings, becoming like him in his death, that by any means possible I may attain the resurrection from the dead." Philippians 3 verses 10-11. Paul's wilderness experiences were the proving ground for his faith. They were places where he learned to identify with Christ's suffering, and through that identification, to experience the power of resurrection in his own life. In Acts 16, Paul and his companion Silas were imprisoned in Philippi after casting out a spirit from a slave girl. The authorities were furious, and they had Paul and Silas beaten and thrown into the inner prison. Yet, despite their pain and chains, the two men chose not to grumble or curse their fate. Instead, they prayed and sang hymns to God at midnight. Acts 16 verse 25. The power of their worship was so profound that it caused the foundations of the prison to shake, and suddenly, their chains fell off. The doors of the prison opened, and they were set free. But rather than escaping, Paul chose to stay, leading to the conversion of the jailer and his family. Through this moment, Paul demonstrated an important truth. In the wilderness, God's power is made visible. When we praise Him in the midst of our darkest hours, we invite His miraculous presence to move in ways we could never have imagined. Paul's faith was tested repeatedly, but he learned that God's power was most evident in moments of weakness. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9 says, "But he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me.'" 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9. In the wilderness of suffering, Paul found strength. He found power in God's grace. He discovered that every moment of pain was an opportunity for God's glory to shine. As Paul neared the end of his ministry, he wrote to Timothy, his beloved disciple, these powerful words in 2 Timothy 4 verses 7-8. "I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me but also to all who have loved his appearing." 2 Timothy 4 verses 7-8. Paul's wilderness was not a place of defeat, it was a place of victory. Through every struggle, every trial, and every hardship, Paul's faith remained firm. And in the end he was able to say, "I have kept the faith." As we reflect on Paul's life, we are reminded that the wilderness is not the end of the road. It is where we are refined, strengthened, and prepared for the work God has called us to. Like Paul, we can choose to hold fast to our faith, no matter the trials that come our way. The life of Paul teaches us that the wilderness isn't a place to be feared. It's a place where faith can be forged. Every trial, every storm, every moment of uncertainty is an opportunity for growth, for transformation, and for drawing closer to the God who walks with us through it all. When we face our own wilderness, we can find strength in knowing that we are not alone. Like Paul, we are called to be resilient, to hold on to hope, and to trust that every step, even the hardest ones, are part of God's greater plan. So, no matter where you are right now, whether you're in the midst of your own storm or climbing your own mountain, remember this: your faith is your greatest ally. In the wilderness, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. Thank you for joining us on this journey. May the life of Paul inspire you to walk with faith, courage, and perseverance, wherever your path leads. If this video inspired you or blessed you in any way, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to stay connected. There's so much more coming your way from Rolling in Spirit Media, where faith meets creativity. Until next time, keep rolling in the spirit.